Pick a move in the ring. You can hit me with a word you fling.
Hey, what's happening, everyone? It's Nick, Atkin, and John Hyon Ko on the Post-Fight Podcast again. I'm in Hong Kong. He's over in Korea. And today, we're going to talk about One Championship because, the Asian martial arts promotion, they dropped a huge bomb yesterday with a press release saying we've added 70 million in funds to our war chest. But, by the way, we've also reduced our worldwide headcount by 20%, I think they said it was. John, just can I get your immediate reaction to this news? Because it's sent a lot of ripples and waves through the world of MMA, hasn't it?
It definitely has sent ripples through the MMA world and a lot of people, I guess, people in high positions or, people of notoriety are retweeting and commenting on this, and it's drawing much more attention than the Bloody Elbow article that came out, dissecting their financials. And people would have thought that would be the big news, but it's not. It's how One Championship came out with the press release talking about how much money that they have and how much more money that they gathered, which is pretty insane. Like, if you've totaled it up, it's over $400 million. So I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon.
365 million, I think it said they now have. Yeah, and they have said it's to safeguard our future. Seems like they're fine, but it's come at a bit of a huge cost on the human side, hasn't it?
Yeah, 20%. But do we know exactly how many employees that the One Championship has worldwide? I have no idea. So 20% could be two people.
They say we have between, in LinkedIn, you have to bracket the amount of people we have in a company, right? So they say we have between 201 and 500. So somewhere in that ballpark, let's say 300, 400, maybe, I don't know. Most of them in Singapore, right, where one is headquartered. But yeah, I know people who've lost their jobs there now. It's crazy. And yeah, everyone's heartbroken. It's a tough time. It's always hard to imagine that happening. I'm glad SCMP, we were able to keep our jobs here. I think there were very, very limited redundancies. Everyone had to take 3 weeks unpaid leave just to safeguard the company's future. And you're always hoping this won't happen to someone like One Championship, but it looks like it was a move they had to make, do you think?
It definitely a move that they had to make in the climate that we're in around the world and how everything was shut down. Singapore, I believe, is still shut down. So what are they going on, like a couple months now, 3 months of nothing. The promotion has had one show, which was earlier this year in Singapore with no audience. They need to get that machine moving. If the machine's not moving, they're not going to make anything. You know what I mean? I don't care what the Bloody Elbow article says. If you're not in business, you're not going to make any money, right? And if they're not making money, they can't keep people employed. And it's just what happens in business. You can't, only Dana White would come out and say, like, we're not firing anybody, because you're the UFC. It's a different machine, right? One Championship is one machine, and the UFC is a whole nother machine. And with One Championship, them laying off 20% and being open about it, I kind of condemn them for that. You know what I mean? Like, I say, like, hey, at least they're kind of being honest for the time being and showing you that, it's hard times for everybody, even for One Championship, even though they have $365 million in the war chest.
Well, let's look at the statement first. We can get to when they might come back a bit later. It's all very depressing, to be honest, because, as I said, I've got a lot of friends there. I go to a lot of One shows. I've met a lot of great people, and they all work so hard. I don't think anyone will tell you otherwise. Everyone in One, pretty much, they bust their ass to put on great stuff. I hate to see this happen, but look, so one press release, it says One Championship adds $70 million to its war chest. So you're like, okay, One's found some more money, another round of funding. And then they drop another line at the end of that paragraph saying, oh, and there's a 20% reduction in total worldwide headcount. And then you get a statement from Hua Feng saying, I'm thrilled to announce that One Championship closed another round of funding a few weeks ago with existing institutional investors, as well as a new institutional investor. I'm full of gratitude for this strong vote of confidence amid the worst global economic crisis in 100 years. With 9 figures of cash on the balance sheet and a streamlined organization, One Championship looks forward to continuing to delight our fans around the world. Okay, so they're trying to make it positive, I guess. There's no way you can make something like this positive, but they're saying, well, we've had to do that. We've got more money now, though, and we're going to be operating at a lower cost. Is it wise to try and spin this in a positive way, or do you think it's a bit of a backfire for them?
There is no way you can spin this in a positive way, the way the press release is written out. They said that they got another round of funding, $70 million, and at the same time they streamlined operations and pretty much released 20% of their employees right into unemployment. I don't understand why they would write something like this. Why would you write this together? You know, like I said earlier, it's great that they're being honest, but it doesn't make any sense to me. What are they trying to accomplish with this? You know, I don't really ever see any other promotions around the world saying that they got a lot of money. Like, you don't see any promotions around the world. One Championship is like the only promotion that will kind of release information about their investors. It's very confusing, very odd, and I feel really bad for the people that were pretty much fired from their jobs, from their positions in the promotion, because they just got another $70 million. If your employee just got fired, you're like, how do I get fired? And I'm doing my job, working my ass off, but the company just got another $70 million of cash. It makes no sense if I'm in the position of an employee that works for the company, right? Or maybe One Championship needed to cut corners, right? They needed to streamline operations, and they were going to do it before, but they were just delaying it, and then eventually, with this global crisis going on, they had to do it because financially it just didn't work out for them. And plus, it probably doesn't fit into their like 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year plan, right? With the money that they have right now, and maybe that's why. I wish we could talk to somebody up there, a big boss or somebody up high in a high position at One Championship, and kind of get more details about what exactly happened. But that will probably never happen. And so we just are led to speculate most of what we know.
Yeah, well, it begins now. Chatri is trying to move forward. The CEO, founder, Chatri Sachotong, he's saying we're going to try and start shows next month. Try and bring this up on the screen here for you.
Oh yeah, it's an interview that he did, right?
Yeah, he's spoken to AFP, Agence France Presse. So I think it was ripping the Band-Aid off, wasn't it? And now the only thing they can do is try and get back to putting on shows. But yeah, here you go. One Championship could return to ring next month, says CEO Chatri. He's warned of rocky operating conditions ahead after the coronavirus. Of course, this environment has made it trickier to operate, but I'm always an optimist, and I believe where there's a will, there's a way. We're looking at next month already. Nothing has been announced formally, but I can tell you that we are working very hard to come back. Well, it's something, isn't it? They've got to come back soon because UFC is plowing full stream ahead, and as you said, you need to be putting on shows in this business. That's where all the money is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gotta get the fighters out there, you gotta get the sponsors out there, you gotta get everybody out there in front of the world. Next month is most likely July, right? So they're gonna try to get a show on in July. That sounds good to me. I feel like Singapore will probably be back running and open by then. Thailand, I believe, is just opened their airports. So if Thailand's going to open up, Singapore should not be far behind them. So right now they're probably working their ass off trying to set themselves up. So when it does open up and when fighters can fly in and be able to compete in Singapore, they could do it right away. I've heard somebody say that, once Singapore opens up, it's going to take them a couple months to, I think it was Gary Tonin, right? I think in your interview, you talked to him about it, right? And do you remember what he said? He said that even if they open up, it's going to still take a couple months, right?
Yeah, loosely I paraphrase him, but it's something like that. He said, let's think,
Yeah.
let's say, best case scenario, Singapore opens up next month. You're still going to have another 3 months or so before you can get a show on, probably because of all the logistics, right? And getting fighters over there. This is one problem. We've spoken about it on the show before. It's not like UFC where there's a huge pool of talent already in one country. You've got to fly them in from all over the world. A lot of them are living in America, right? A lot of the champions live in America. Ongla and Sang, Florida. Martin Nguyen, Australia, train camp in Florida. Bibiana Fernandez, where's he? Seattle, is it?
Canada.
Yeah, Canada. Yeah.
Adriano, he's in Florida
Adriano.
also. Demetrius Johnson, he's gonna fight Adriano. He's in Seattle, near Seattle. Eddie Alvarez, the biggest names, at least 50% or more are in the States, and you need to be able to have them come over here and fight and put on shows. You can.
Christian Lee are in Hawaii, right?
Exactly, and then you got Martin Nguyen. He's in Australia right now. So logistically, yes, it's a nightmare. But if anybody could do it, it's Singapore. And I mean, it's one championship because they have very close ties, I believe, to the Singapore government. And I feel like they have some kind of deal with the tourism board where they work together in some capacity. So if they do have that, then they must have connections in the government, and they could probably work something out. I'm pretty sure Chatri is trying his hardest to squeeze through some small cracks and get through and put on a show in July. I'm optimistic. If he's saying July, I hope it's July because I'm ready for one championship to come back. I'm ready to have some options. I love the UFC. I love watching it. I love covering it. I love interviewing the fighters, but I also like to see one championship. The shows are great. The fighters are great. And we need some variety. I want to see Ryzen come back. I want to see all the promotions come back, not just one. But yeah, if we get one back, then it's just one step closer to getting everything back to normal. But we'll see what happens. We'll pray and we'll go to church on Sundays.
You're right, though. There's so many great fighters in one. I love talking to and seeing them fight. So many great people who work there. So yeah, I just hope as an organization, the future is safeguarded now. At least that's one positive to come out of this whole thing. But it is heartbreaking. I'm so sad for everyone who lost their job. It sucks. This whole year sucks, right?
Yeah.
Seeing all this stuff coming. It's just. Yeah.
It's about survival. This whole year is about survival. And if you can survive and even thrive in this time, then once we're out of it, you're going to be hitting the ground running. And that's what you need to think and the mentality you need to have. And I think a lot of these fighters, they could have two options during this time of no shows, especially one championship fighters. Either you're working hard to elevate your skill set and keeping in shape and staying healthy, or you're not, and you're sitting at home with Doritos fingers and drinking Mountain Dew and watching Netflix and exhausting all the dramas and everything and not doing anything and feeling bad for yourself. And it's just like you and me, anybody. We got to try to improve ourselves in what we're doing. And if you're not doing that right now, man, I feel bad for those people.
They were supposed to have a show actually in Beijing. Bring it up on the screen. It wasn't a main roster show.
This weekend.
This is not going to happen because there's just been a huge outbreak of coronavirus in the Beijing wet market, I think, one of them, which is spreading everywhere now. And there were like 79 infections yesterday.
Whoa.
So that's not going to happen, surely, right?
So I wonder what the over-under is on, are we going to have shows first or are we going to have The Apprentice first? That's the big question. And I hope it's the shows, not The Apprentice. Because, reality TV is reality TV. We want to see some fighting and we want to see the shows. But, man, it looks like we might have the reality show first, But who knows? Because people can't fly in, right? The contestants to Singapore, so they can't film it. And I wonder what
I think
the
ideally
protocol for that is.
they wanted to use the fights to promote the show. surely, right? And vice versa. So do you think they might delay it, The Apprentice? Maybe wait till next year now? The way UFC just completely scrapped its China Dana White's Contender Series Asia, which was going to be in the Shanghai Performance Center, right? They put that one on ice, just it looks like until 2021.
Yeah, and I don't think they're gonna shelf it. I feel like Chatri, when he has his mind set on something, it's like he's gonna do it. It's like do or die for him. So it's, and then especially he's the star. Come on, he's a star. Like he's gonna do it. He's not gonna delay that. So he's gonna if they do delay it, it's only gonna be by a small amount of time. It's not gonna be until next year. That would just be crazy. But we know who knows what's gonna happen with anything now.
It's kind of like they
Have you
want to get
talked to anybody
content
at
out
One
there.
Championship? Have you talked to anybody about like how optimistic they are or pessimistic they are about shows?
No one knows any kind of date.
Mm.
It's
Mhm.
it's really up in the air, and I think that compounds the misery of this whole situation after the announcement yesterday. There is not a light at the end of the tunnel yet. We don't know when they're going to be back. So on top of all of that stuff, it's just extra heartbreak, isn't it? Because who knows if they can't put on more shows, is there going to be more suffering? Or I mean, hopefully after getting all this new investment, they said they found a new $20 billion company backing them, right? And just hope that stops all the pain of people losing their jobs and safeguards the future, as we're talking about. But yeah, I don't know when
Well,
they're coming back. I've not heard a single thing. No one has a clue. It sounds like Singapore is going to be the target. But
yeah,
yeah,
well,
not happened yet.
when they said that they fired people, they said it at non-essential areas of the company, right? So that I really wonder what the non-essential areas of the company would be.
Yeah.
But
So much
anyways,
drama.
yeah. Anyways, Chatri, if you're listening, get it going, man. Work hard and get that machine back on the road and get these shows on the road. You got so many title fights coming up. A lot of great title fights, just fights in general. Guys that everybody wants to see in that circle. Yeah, I support One Championship, man. We might, talk on both sides, of topics, but I always support the One Championship, all the promotions pretty much, and hopefully they get back real fast.
In another silver lining maybe of all of this is when they do come back, it could be a real huge blockbuster card. Maybe
Yeah.
Chatri will do another one of the double headers, like from Century in Tokyo, because what better way than to come back with a bang? Or do you think maybe the smarter move might be to roll it out gradually? Because who knows? I don't know. There should be enough fights to have a big first card, right? You think?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the first card. I feel like they will have a couple cards, like 2 or 3, and then they'll bust out a major blockbuster. But that's the way to go, kind of slowly ease your way in, test the waters, and then when it's time, boom, with that major card, you got so many good fights, Demetrius versus Adriano, just the title fights coming up, and that featherweight title fight, you don't know who's going to be the challenger now. Gary Tonin might slip in somehow. You never know. Tan Lee, there, even there could be a dark horse somewhere in there. Yeah, it's just Ong La versus Big Dash, the trilogy. That's going to be interesting to watch. So many good fights. Brendan Vera is going to actually fight twice in like a span of a year. That's unprecedented, and stuff like that, like it's just interesting narratives. You got Timothy Nastuyukin coming back. You got Doggy versus Eddie Alvarez. That should be locked and loaded. Man, I could go on and on with all the matchups. It's fun times, and I'm not even talking about the women's division. The women's division has some great fights too coming up.
One guy who's not happy though. So this Cosmo, right? Cosmo Alexandre.
Yeah. Let's
Trying to
see
bring
what
up the
that. Let's
tweets
see what.
here. Yeah, so he's okay. Fight to pay seems to be in the mood, right? In the news.
Mhm.
So someone asked Cosmo. I'll bring this up here on Twitter. Yeah, when are you going to be fighting again? Because we haven't seen Cosmo since he knocked out Sage Northcutt, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And here we go. He says that's a good question. They don't think I'm worth what I'm asking for, but the one championship won't release me. So seems like he's having trouble negotiating now, just like Masvidal and Jones, Cejudo with the UFC. I'm one of Cosmo's biggest fans. You know, I think he deserves something after that because he took out a big name, didn't he, in Sage Northcutt, and then we didn't hear anything from him. This is the first we heard from him. I think it was first I'm hearing from him since I think when was that May last year he fought Sage.
Yeah, it's been so long that we almost forgot about him, you know, and when you look at the tweet, right, he says that they won't release me. I think that's the most interesting part. You know, he wants to get paid more, but they won't release him, which means he's still under contract with one championship, you know, and there's two sides to that story, right? There's a side where he signed a contract with one championship to fight for this amount of money for this many years or this many times, right? And then for him, he wants to renegotiate a contract that he's already in, and they seem to not be able to come to terms with that. And I see both sides of the story, right? I see the side where one championship gave him a contract, he signed it, he should honor the contract. And then I see the other side of Cosmo. He just went out there basically in a fight where they expected, I don't know if they expected him to lose, but they kind of wanted that to happen, right? They were kind of using him as a springboard for Sage. Because think about it, Sage is the poster boy for any promotion out there. And what happened was he demolished, he destroyed Sage's face, right? And it kind of backfired on, you know, whoever set that up. So it's like Cosmo is in a terrible position. You know what I mean? Like he wants to get paid more because he just took out Sage in devastating fashion. But one championship is telling him, hey, you got to honor your contract that you signed, and you gotta fight, you know, for how much we're gonna pay you. So it's, I don't know, man. It's exactly like the Jorge Masvidal situation. You know, he signed an 8-fight deal, and then after one fight, he wants to renegotiate his contract, which, you know, same thing. On the side of the fighter, yes, you want to get paid more, and I support that. But then on the side of the promotions, like you signed this contract, and now you want to go back on the contract. You know, it's 8 fights. Jesus, I wonder how many fights Cosmo signed for, or how many years he signed for to fight for one championship. I would like to know the details of that, but you know, there's so many parallels with Cosmo and one championship and Jorge and what is it, the UFC. And now it seems like Jorge's probably not going to fight anytime soon, and John Jones and Henry Cejudo retired, and Cosmo sitting on the bench for over a year, and everybody's always like, where's Cosmo? And now we know where he is. He's sitting in purgatory because he wants to get more money, and well deserved. But man, one champion's not going to give it to him, so he's just going to sit on the bench for a long time.
If you're one of these promoters like Dana White, like Chatri, it must be kind of annoying, right? Frustrating, because you're trying to deal with all of this stuff, this coronavirus just wrecking the schedule, wrecking every aspect of your promotion. And now on top of that, now is the time the fighters are all standing up, because I think they're starting to realize this is our time. If we're ever going to unionize or something like that, this is the most leverage we've had in a long time. And I think it's not a coincidence that this is happening with Cosmo right now, I think, right?
No, it's not a coincidence, because Cosmo trains with UFC fighters. He trains with all the guys stateside. So he hears what's going on. He understands the situation with the UFC, and his situation is similar. So he's just coming out and expressing himself because he has no other choice. What else is he gonna do? You know what I mean? They're not gonna give him more money. So he's gonna come out and make it public, and that's what he has decided. Is it going to work out for him? Well, I don't believe it's going to work out for him very well with this, you know, complaining and coming out, you know, and speaking his mind. but for the people that watch the sport, it's good for them. You know, they kind of see something more transparently, right, that's going on with one championship, because a lot of times a lot of fighters wouldn't say their honest truth about their situation with the promotion. But now it seems like Cosmo is fed up and he's just letting all the what is it, the eggs spill out the basket or whatever. So um I feel bad for him, but at the same time I'm gonna feel more I'm gonna feel worse for him, because he's not gonna get what he wants. Because if you look at the history of one championship, they're not a type of promotion to give in to fighters' demands.
I suppose part of the reason it's so interesting is because you don't often hear one championship fighters saying stuff, right? That UFC, it's a bit common for the fighters to publicly go after Dana or the matchmakers or the money men, whatever. In one, we don't hear any criticism too often. So I think that's what slightly took me back a bit when I think it was you guys, you and Chris, you told me about Cosmo's tweets. I was like, oh, I got to check this out.
Yeah, it's just well, one championship, they rule with an iron fist, you know, and that's well known. It's not like nobody knows that. It's something that they utilize, you know, the iron fist, and a lot of fighters that fight for one championship are treated extremely well. You know, it's not like every fighter has complaints. It's not like that. There are fighters that are treated so well. They're treated like kings when they fight, you know what I mean? And they're treated very well by one championship. It's any promotion you go to, there's gonna be employees, and the fighters are the employees, and they're gonna not like their situation. They're gonna always compare their situation to the next guy, and they believe that they deserve more than that guy next to them. And it's just nature, you know what I mean? It's what happens in society. It happens in a company when you got employees competing against each other to make the most and elevate themselves up the company. And in a promotion or organization is no different. So maybe we'll see more guys come out and complain about their pay or other aspects of their contract or whatever, but I doubt it. I think Cosmo's just by himself on this one.
Well, talking of Cosmo, I spoke to Sage Northcutt last week, and he's saying he's now going to move down 2 weight divisions after that fight. And it was a pretty candid interview. He told me I made a mistake fighting Cosmo, and he was saying he had to drink a couple of gallons of water on the hydration test day just to make that weight. You know, it's crazy just thinking back that he ever took that fight. I know this debate has been done before, but it's like the Bruce Lee Tarantino debate, you know, it's never going to go away. Even a year later, I'm still talking about it with people here. Jason Tobin, we did an interview with him. Shout out to Jason Tobin. Yeah, the Cosmo debate is always going to be there. Yeah, what do you think of Sage, though? Is featherweight the right thing for him?
Oh, definitely. It's the right thing for him. One thing about Sage is that physically he's so gifted, and I just think it's just the mental side of it that he needs to develop, you know, as time goes. And he's at a great camp, you know, he's with Team Alpha Male, so they're gonna be giving him the best training possible. And I think Uriah favor him taking Sage under his wing and kind of developing the mind and understanding how to perform on the big stage and everything, you know, and just being a better human being, I feel is going to help Sage perform better in the cage for one championship. It's going to take a few fights for him to get his footing, because, you know, it's going to be very interesting to see how he comes back from getting his face crushed. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like I said, mentally, how is he going to perform? You know what I mean? Like, is he going to perform like the Sage that we saw in the UFC, or is he going to be timid and, you know, and not a fighter? He's just going to go out there and kind of like fight to survive. And very interested to see how he reacts and comes back from that. But coming back at featherweight, much better option. There's a lot of good matchups. Hey, if Sage can work himself up in fighting like Martin, I would love to see that. You know what I mean? Those are two strikers, and who doesn't want to see two strikers, go for knockouts? And that's what's gonna happen. Hey, Sage Northcutt and Tan Lee, who doesn't want to see that? You know what I mean? Like, come on, that's a sick fight right there. I would like to see that right now. Why not? Just give Tan Lee Sage Northcutt for his featherweight debut.
Yeah, because
You know?
Tan Lee was meant to fight Martin, right? Last we
Mhm.
checked with one, and I don't know. Speaking to Gary Tonin last week as well, he was saying he's hearing some talk from One Championship. You know, they're asking him to do some promotional material for the Martin Nguyen fight, which means he said it might just be because they want to have a few options, bounce a few things around in case something falls through. But maybe Gary's going to slide on in there, like you said, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that either. It's an intriguing matchup, an intriguing stylistic, clash between a pure striker like Martin versus a pure grappler like Gary Tonin. In my opinion, Gary Tonin is the biggest threat in that division. Just looking purely at the matchup, he's the biggest threat to Martin to win. You know what I mean? Once he gets you to the ground, man, he is just on another level. When you go in there and you tap out Aoki, you're on another level. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. I want to see that fight, but then I also want to see the Tan Lee fight too, because two guys just going in there, just chucking bombs at each other would be fun to watch also. But going back to Sage, yeah, I don't feel like he should fight Tan Lee next. That's just me being like a fan and kind of like being selfish. He should get somebody where he can kind of get his groove back. I don't really have a name in mind, but a lot of featherweights. Oh, why not like Emilio Urrutia? Or Emilo Urrutia, right? He hasn't fought in a while. He's coming off a loss also, and I think that's a great matchup. I'm gonna promote that right there. If Sage goes to featherweight, he should come back and fight Emilo Urrutia. Emilo, if you watching, I got you, man. You go fight Sage. I think that's a good fight right there. It could be like a fight of the year matchup.
Why not? Okay, John's the new matchmaker for one, huh? Yeah,
I hope
not
so.
a bad idea. Well, something else, we can move on from One Championship. There's not much news about UFC, weirdly. Normally there's a bunch of stuff. Pretty quiet, I guess. We're going to preview the event tomorrow, I think. We'll hopefully have Chris back. But yeah, something newsworthy here. Amanda Nunes. Oh, wrong one. I'm going to take that off. Amanda Nunes, John, saying she might retire now. She had said she was going to take some time off, some maternity leave, but it looks like she may hang up both belts. Obviously, 2-division champion, the GOAT pretty much of women's MMA. As she says here, this MMA junkie got the story. There's nothing else to be done right now, and it's true, isn't it? Amanda Nunes, even last fight, she made another slice of history, became the first 2-division champion in UFC to defend both belts while still holding both. What else is there left for her to do?
The Cyborg rematch. That's the only thing that's left, but that's not possible in the UFC. But she's right. She has really not much left to prove. She's beaten everybody. Look at the list. It's pretty insane, Ronda Rousey, Misha Tate, Shevchenko twice, Sarah McMahon, Cyborg, Holly Holm, Jermaine Durandame, Felicia Spencer. She's pretty much beat like 3 different generations of women's mixed martial artists, and I don't see anybody even coming close to even taking her out, right now at this moment. So if she decides to retire, I feel like it's all right, because she always has the option to come back, and she's gonna retire with 2 belts. If she retires now and she never fights again, I don't see anybody else being, other than Chris Cyborg, the greatest of all time. She's almost basically the clear-cut greatest of all time women's mixed martial artist. If Chris Cyborg comes back and fights Amanda Nunes, that's a whole nother story, because Chris Cyborg holds like 4 championship titles in 4 different organizations, and I feel like that holds a lot of weight too. But with Amanda Nunes, man, if she retires, let her retire. Let the divisions roll on. Maybe even get rid of the featherweight division, because do we really need it? Probably not. And let bantamweights fight each other. Get a new champion in there. And then once the baby's all born and taken care of, maybe Amanda Nunes comes back and gets an immediate title shot against whoever is the champion at that moment. And we'll see what happens. I think that would be a great story right there. Retire now, come back later after the baby's born, and take on whoever's the champion and win the title again. That just adds on to the legacy right there of Amanda Nunes, man. I love Amanda Nunes. She's just phenomenal. Like, we are privileged to watch somebody like that fight and show like the development throughout the years. Because you remember her fight against Kat Zingano where she was knocked out with ground and pound? Yeah. That was an insane fight, right? And then after that, she just wrecked shop. You know, after that, she hasn't lost since. And yeah, I love it. I love Amanda Nunes. She retires great.
With Brazilian TV show Esporte Espetacular. I pronounced that right, guys. Sorry, MMA Fighting just translated it. But she said, I don't know, I've achieved everything I wanted. I'm well, I can go on with my life, maybe take a new step, maybe find new talents, help some girls there, maybe be a coach too. I'm in a moment I can retire, and I'm in a moment I can fight. I'm fine, there's nothing else to be done right now in the division. The Hall of Fame will come for sure, my life going forward. If I do stop now, the UFC will give me every support I need to continue having my money and work. Yeah, I think you're right, aren't you? Why not take a step back, let someone new rise? I'm sure the UFC would like to create a new star, and as you said, maybe get rid of one of those divisions. We don't need both. Featherweight. Yeah, let someone take the crown, and then that's a money match for Amanda to come back to maybe in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, even in a year, you know, there's a lot of things can happen in 1 year. Amanda, she can go and relax and like she said, help some girls, you know, coach and develop some talent at American Top Team. You know, even though they have a bevy of female talent there, but man, her knowledge and her know-how and everything that she's gone through, she would help a lot of those girls if she could focus on the coaching side. But yeah, I want to see that. You know, like usually I want to see them fight, but I would like to her to kind of like do the GSP and step away for a while and then come back and fight for the title against maybe Shevchenko or something, man. I don't know. Everybody wants the Shevchenko fight. Don't you notice that? They always want her to fight Shevchenko again, even though she beat Shevchenko twice. And I understand they were close fights, but she beat her twice already. If Shevchenko had something like in her possession that was worth Amanda fighting her again, I could see that fight happening, but there's nothing there. Only thing that could happen is Amanda retires, Shevchenko moves back up to bantamweight, wins the title, and then Amanda decides to come back and fight her, and then that's the scenario that needs to happen for them to fight for the third time. And I wish that would happen. That would be beautiful.
That would be cool. Well, I think nothing else to talk about today. As I said before, hopefully we're going to be back tomorrow on Wednesday, Hong Kong time, and you're not too far. You're an hour ahead, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're going to preview the UFC show from this weekend. Otherwise, yeah, go check out John at JHK MMA. I got to shout out your interview here as well with Temba Garimbo. Really cool. If you haven't seen it, go check out John's YouTube. Awesome, crazy story about how he had to flee Zimbabwe, where he was, you know, working, smuggling blood diamonds, right? If you've seen the film Blood Diamond, and then he got attacked by police dogs one day. He almost died from all the bites, and then he crossed the border into South Africa, where again he almost died when some criminals tried to mug them, coming at him with a huge knife.
Yeah, robbed them, and then he got deported back to Zimbabwe the first time, and then the same day he snuck back into South Africa because South Africa was where the good life was, you know, compared to Zimbabwe, and that's where he wanted to be. That's where basically his dreams can come true. And man, just go. We're not even giving it justice. You know, he explains it in the video, and I heard from a bird that someone's writing a very beautifully written article about this story. So look out for that very soon.
Yeah, it could be on SCMP. Who knows? But also, you're gonna drop a full version of this interview, right? When's that coming?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's gonna come in the next couple of days. It's just to get to know him better and his journey through fighting. But yeah, this video is just all about him before he even thought about fighting at all. He was fighting for his life, and at the same time, both his parents passed away when he was 9. I think he was like 9 years old when his mom passed, and he was like 13 when his father passed. So this guy has been through a life and a half before even starting fighting. And if you feel like you're in a terrible position in your life, come on, just go watch this video and you'll realize, man, you could dig yourself out of anything.
And he's now welterweight champ, right, in EFC Extreme Fighting in South Africa. And you're pretty sure he'll be knocking on the door for the UFC soon?
Yes. I think he told me he's not gonna fight for EFC anymore. He's just waiting for the UFC call up.
Yeah, one of the hottest prospects out of Africa then, right?
Yeah. Africa is a hotbed right now, you know. He's just the tip of the iceberg, and we're gonna see a lot of guys coming up. So it's exciting times for that area.
Yeah, as John said, go check it out. We can't do it justice. It's a very good interview. I saw you were blowing up on Twitter, retweets galore when you put that out there.
Man,
And
I didn't expect that
as well. Yeah, that's how I saw it. So, yeah, good stuff. Anyway, yeah, I'm Nick Atkin. You can get me on that little button there, Nico SCMP. Or it's not actually a button, is it? You can't subscribe from that. Just go find me on Twitter. Also, please follow SCMP MMA on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, which is where you'll be watching this video anyway. So we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Post-Fight Podcast. Thank you again, John, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you all again after a while.
Hey guys, Sasha Platnikoff here, letting you know to tune in to SCMP Post-Fight for all your weekly martial arts news.